The subject is intention. What is it? How do you use it? How do you access it? Okay, the intention is a very difficult thing to define in English. In English we have lots of synonyms that are close but not quite right. One of the closest ones would be will. Okay, another one would be motivation. Another one would be perhaps focus. We talk about all these things, and intention is all of that, and it's a little bit more. To get the idea of intention, think about what consciousness is, what conscious beings are. They're just data. They're non-physical subsets of data, processing, experience, purpose, all these things that go into make a being. They're self-modifying, changing, growing. Okay, now what is intent? If you're a being just of data, all you do is communicate. I mean, consciousness is information. Right? Everything is just information. This reality is information. In the consciousness realm, it's information. Consciousness is an information field. Well, entities, what is an entity? It's a thing that exchanges information with other things. That's the definition of an entity. It's just something that exchanges information. Okay, and now when something exchanges information with us, we call that a being. That's the definition of a being. It's something that exchanges information with us. Okay, now if you are a being of information, exchanging information in an information field, how do you accomplish that? How do you actually send a message? How do you receive a message or block a message? Well, you do that with intent. You don't have arms and legs. You don't need electromagnetic fields. It's just data. What moves the data is intention. It's the intention of the being. It's the intention that makes the data move. Okay, so in a fundamental sense, and I know it's hard to put this into a precise English term because this is not physical. You see, our language is only good at describing things that are physical. The language was developed in order to describe physical reality. Well, this is non-physical, this non-physical data field. So it's very difficult to describe this with, I say English, but any language. But you kind of have the idea. So you have these entities, which are just things that can exchange data, and they exchange it through intent. Their intent sends it out. The intent to receive it pulls it in. So you have an intent to collect data that pulls that data in. You have an intent to deliver data, that intent moves that data out. So that's what intent is. It's the motive force. It's the thing that makes things change in a digital information system. Okay, so think of it as the kind of the power behind the communication. So intent is that motivator. Now intent is very important because intent is how we communicate. Intent is how we, another metaphor, it's how we project energy. Okay? Well, there is no such thing as energy, it's just a metaphor. Energy, as a metaphor, means something that we do that makes a change somewhere else. We call that energy. So if I send you good energy, that just means that my intent affects you. Or I send you bad energy, my intent affects you, just in a bad way rather than a good way. So this thing of energy doesn't really exist, just like light doesn't exist. What exists is intent and consciousness and nothing else. You see? So there is no energy. All there is we have an effect at a distance through our intent. So if you want to affect something, if you want to heal, if you want to go somewhere, if you want to collect data, then you have to do that with your intent. Well, how do we do that with our intent? Well, it's partly will, it's partly motivation. I mean, you can't do it if you have no will to do it. You can't do it if you're not motivated to do it. You can't do it if you don't want to do it. So it's all of these things, but really none of them, because English words don't apply. Now, what it is it's an expression of yourself at the being level. That's your intent. So here you are, this individuated unit of consciousness. How do you express yourself? Through intent. That's your mode of expression. That's how any being, which is something that can express itself, something that can communicate. You know, so it's inherent to consciousness. So intent is how we do that. Now, why the meditation and why all this other stuff? That's because your intent, obviously, has to do with your consciousness, with your awareness, with your understanding. And if your consciousness and your awareness is just scattered all over the place, and you have all this monkey mind stuff buzzing around in your head, oh, what about this, and what about that, and she said this, and he said that, what does this mean? And oh, so-and-so, they made me angry, and, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, then where's your intent? You see, your intent's weak. It's scattered. Your mind's going in 100 directions at once, but not going anywhere. It's like you have, you know, you're the pedal to the metal, but your clutch is in. You know, nothing's happening. It's just all this self-referential, ego-related chatter going on in your mind. Therefore, your intent is very, very weak because it's not focused. That's what meditation is for. Meditation is just a tool to help you focus that intent so that you get rid of all that chatter and all that monkey mind. So when you put your intent, your focus on something, it actually changes data. And when you change data someplace, you deliver a message or you modify the probable reality of what's going to happen next. That's how we heal. We use our intent to change the probable future. The future is just probable, not a done deal. We can change the probabilities of what's likely to happen or not likely to happen with our intent, because all of it's an information field. We can modify the information with our intent. So that's the intent is kind of a special word that has to be defined in the context of consciousness. You can't just read what intent means in a dictionary, because that won't quite tell you what's really going on. It's the expression of an individuated unit of consciousness outside to other. Other being everything else other than itself. So here it is itself, and intent is how it connects to everything else. And if that intent is fuzzy and scattered and non-focused, then the result is fuzzy and scattered and non-focused. You have very little effect. Again, we use metaphor of energy for the effect, which means you have very little energy. You're not really projecting energy. You have very little power. So that's kind of the purpose and kind of the fundamental definition of intent.